Hi, my name is Kristen and this is Kristen Craves Books. Obviously it's time to talk about new releases again. We're talking about March books this time, and there are a ton of them, wide variety of genres, so many that I'm highly anticipating, and quite a few pre-order campaigns as well. So I will leave a link to my Goodreads shelf where I have all of the books I'm excited for that are coming out in 2025. There's over 100 on there now, including the ones I will talk about in this video, so it'll be easy for you to find them that way. And I will also leave links to all the pre-order campaigns information that you need, and whether it's international or US only, all that stuff. So you will find everything you need in the description box. So let's dive into it. Starting with March 1st, we have two books, and the first one is one I've already read and I'm just excited to talk about because it is a novella from one of my favorite authors, and it is The Fall Risk by Abby Jimenez. Unfortunately, this is an Amazon original. I always hate that. It is Abby Jimenez and it's worth reading. I think it's like 82 pages or something. And I obviously read it in this chair in one sitting and absolutely loved it. It is a romance, and it is following these two characters who end up trapped on the floor of their apartment building. I guess it's one of those situations where there's a walk-up and there's only 2 units on this floor, and they wake up one morning and the stairs to their building have been removed accidentally, and now they're stuck up there. Seems like a safety hazard. They do have a ladder. It's kind of silly, but they decide to just hunker down for the weekend, and they sit out on their the landing of their apartment buildings and look at the stars and stuff and get to know one another. But they both have their own stories. He is recently divorced, and we find out why. She has a lot of walls up. She's very scared, and you find out reasons for that, which may be hard for some people to read. So I will leave the content warning for that in the description down below in case you want to know, but I think the reveal of that is kind of part of the story. It's only 82 pages, but you can figure out what's going on pretty early on in that one. But you see how they connect with one another, and there's some side characters as well. They both have friends that come and visit and bring them food, and it's just really sweet. Loved it. It was a perfect way to spend a couple hours. And the second book coming out on March 1st is The Warbler by Sarah Beth Durst. Now, Sarah Beth Durst has become an auto-buy author for me, very quickly becoming one of my favorites. Obviously, I love Queen of Blood and that entire series, and The Spell Shop was one of my best books of last year, but this one seems different from what I know her for, but I think that's true. She's got some YA stuff that is very different, some vampire stuff that I haven't read. So I think that she's one of those authors who is not afraid to write outside of the box, and I love that about her. And this one, it leans more magical realism. It says that it's a magical tale about mothers and daughters, choices and consequences, and the real meaning of home when every place feels like a cage. So the story follows Eliza, and she has a family curse where if she stays anywhere too long and like forms roots, she literally will turn into a tree. So she's always on the move and has been for months. And then she hears about this town in Massachusetts where it's actually impossible for residents to leave, and she thinks that maybe if she goes there she can break her curse somehow. And while she's there, she learns more about her family history, and this is interesting. Obviously, this is where the magical realism comes into play. It says, is that a patch of bark on her arm? But her neighbor's collection of pet birds saying secrets that Eliza can almost understand. Secrets she must unravel in order to truly be alive. So interesting, and something different from what I know from Sarah Beth Durst, but I already know I like her writing, and I do appreciate magical realism. So I'm curious about that one. Okay, let's talk about March 4th now. The first one is a contemporary romance, and it's called Promise Me Sunshine by Cara Bastone. And Cara Bastone wrote Ready or Not, which was probably my most surprising book of 2024 because I love the cover. I heard a lot of hype for this one, but I was reluctant to pick it up because it has surprise pregnancy in it, which is not a trope that I love, and I know I'm not the only one that feels that way. But the way that this author handled that, it really worked. I thought it was a really great romance, and it really changed my mind about that trope and made me realize that it can be handled well. It really just comes down to the author, and I learned more about my preference in terms of that trope. So I think that's interesting, and I immediately said to myself, I will try whatever she writes next, and this is it. And this one is going to be a tough one because we're following a woman whose best friend dies. She was her best friend, her roommate, and she dies of cancer. So know that going in, because I know that can be difficult for a lot of us. And she is struggling to move on. She's just taking babysitting gigs here and there to support herself, and she ends up being a nanny for the single mom. And the daughter's name is Ainsley, and Ainsley's uncle is around a lot, and obviously he's a bit of a jerk. They don't get along, but he learns that she has this list. It's not a bucket list per se, but like that, just things to help her feel like she can live again. And he agrees to help her complete the things on her list if she will help him form a stronger connection to Ainsley and Ainsley's mom, who he has a complicated relationship with, and obviously it is a romance. So I think that setup can be difficult, but it will be really moving, and I trust this author so far, so I'm looking forward to giving this one a try. Actually, my next video is going to be my Realmathon TBR, I think, and I always need novellas during a readathon, and this one's fantasy. It sounds like something I will really like, and it's called The River Has Roots by Ama El Motar, and it says, follow the river List to the small town of Thistleford at the edge of Fairy, and meet two sisters who cannot be separated even in death. Oh, what is stronger than a death, two sisters singing in one breath. So this follows the Hawthorne family, obviously these two sisters, and they live on the edge of Fairy, and they have to tend to and sing to willow trees, and these are enchanted trees, and they made some kind of deal back in the day that they will sing to the trees and keep them alive, and this is a way to thank them for giving them magic. So that sounds whimsical to me. But then one day, one of the sisters denies a suitor, and a dangerous, violent suitor, because she's in love with somebody from the world of fairy. So we get some fae in this story. But then it says not only the sisters bond, but also their lives will be at risk. So obviously turning down the suitor does not go well. So I'm very intrigued by this one. I appreciate it that it's a novella and perfect for the readathon. So you might hear my thoughts in that one in March if I can get my hands on a copy of it. We have another contemporary romance, and this is called The Love Simulation by Etta Easton, and the tagline is win the prize, lose your heart. And this author wrote, what's it called? I haven't read it yet, but it's another astronaut romance, and I kind of love that this seems to be the niches that going down. I'm not sure if the two are connected in any way, but I feel like they probably are. A passionate vice principal and a guarded science teacher compete for a grand prize, only to realize their budding relationship might be the real jackpot. So this follows Brianna, who is the vice principal at a school, and she really wants funding for the school's library, but she's turned down by the principal, who will put some money towards the sports program. So she enters this Mars, what's the actual program called? Yeah, Mars simulation for teachers. It's some kind of summer program, and if you win, you get funding or you get a grant for your school. So obviously she wants the prize for this library, and when she turns up, the science teacher from her school is there, and he just happens to be the principal's son. So she is worried that he is there to sabotage her, but as they're going through the competition, he's a really great teammate, and obviously they fall in love. So I think this could be really cute. Then one that I'm starting tonight, because I have an arc of it, is Fable for the End of the World by Ava Reed. This says it's a lush dystopian romance. It follows Anissa, and her and her brother live in this half-sunken town where they're scraping by. They run a taxidermy shop, and the government in this story really puts people into debt, and they realize that their mother has been hiding a substantial amount of debt. And what this means is that in order to remove her debt, she has to sacrifice her children to this live-streamed assassination spectacle. It's called the Lamb Gauntlet, so it's giving Hunger Games there a little bit. And we follow Anissa as she is making her way through this gauntlet and the challenges that she faces, and she thinks that she can survive because she's got a lot of survival skills just from the way that she has grown up. But then we're also following Mel, who is an assassin in this story, and she's a living weapon. She's been psychologically trained to be a weapon and conditioned to be that way, and she's never missed a mark. And so obviously she is tasked to kill Anissa, and nobody knows that she is actually suffering from flashbacks, painful flashbacks. And she actually had a breakdown on the live stream during the last gauntlet, so she needs to uphold her reputation. But then she meets Anissa in the gauntlet, and maybe they start having feelings for one another. So if you like dystopian books like that, this might be a good one to try. Again, I'm going to start it tonight, so I will have my thoughts for you soon, and I can't wait to get to it. It'll actually be my first Ava read. One that I have an audiobook for, thanks to Libro.fm, is They Bloom at Night by Trang Tan Tran. And this is a YA horror, as you can probably tell by the cover. I love this cover, I think it's amazing. It's set in Mercy, Louisiana, and there's a red algae that is blooming. There was a huge storm, and since then there are mutated creatures that are appearing in the lakes. So it's following Noon, who has lost some family members, and she is now navigating this submerged city with her mom, and her mom believes that their dead family members are now being turned into monsters and sea creatures. And then this town has a leader who has tasked Noon and her mother to capture this creature who is drowning the town's residents, and she has to work with some old friends, so maybe a ragtag crew happening here. And actually she forms an alliance with the leader's daughter, who is a hunter. And it says, as the next storm approaches, Noon must confront the past and decide if it's time to answer the monster itching at her skin. Really excited for that one. Hopefully we'll get to that one in March as well, as I do have the audiobook. Charlotte McConaughey has a new book coming out. I know that she's a popular author. I do have one of her books around here on my TBR somewhere that I have to read. I think it's Migrations. But this one's called Wild Dark Shore. And this follows a family who I believe are all researchers. It's a father and his 3 kids, and they're the only ones left on this island. It's right off the coast of Antarctica, and it has one of the largest seed banks in the world. So what they're doing there is very important, but obviously there's a lot of isolation, and they're all going through different things. One of the sons has just had his heart broken and he's dealing with that. The daughter is sleeping with seals on the shores at night, and the youngest son is a botanist. He's really passionate about the natural world and he's worried about what's happening to it. And the father is really fixated on the past and what brought them to this island in the first place, so that's a bit of a mystery. And then one day a woman washes ashore and they save her life and they become a bit of a family, but she has her own secrets. She realizes that the dad has secrets, and the story goes on from there. I've heard great things about this author. I do like something a little bit more literary now and then, so this sounds like an intriguing one. Last for March 4th is A Harvest of Hearts by Andrea Ames, and there's a cat on this cover, so obviously that makes me want to read it. It says, in the beloved tradition of Hal's Moving Castle, which I know is a buzzword for a lot of you, a whimsical and unforgettable story of fantastic adventure, common sense, and the power of love to overcome the greatest of obstacles. This follows Foss. She lives in this small town. She knows that magic exists. Once in a while, beautiful women show up in carriages and they steal parts of people's hearts to fuel their magic. And that is how they keep their magic going. And Foss never thinks anybody's gonna take anything from her because she's plain, she's clumsy, there's nothing remarkable about her, she's very practical. But then the only sorcerer in the kingdom ends up accidentally snagging, I think that's what they call it in this, snagging a piece of Foss's heart. And that wasn't his intention. But now she finds herself cursed. She has to go to this capital city and she has to kind of keep his enchanted house, and her only friends there are a talking cat. You know how to win my heart over. If the cat talks, that's a bonus. And even better, the house is sentient. It says that the walls have moods, and if you have a sentient house and a cat, oh, that's my bread and butter right there. It says as Foss learns the ways of magic, she realizes she's far from its only unwilling captive. Even Sylvester, who is the sorcerer in this case, is hemmed in by spells and threats. It said this sorcery protects kings, country, and order for thousands. If Foss wants to free herself, and perhaps Sylvester, she'll have to confront it all and uncover the blight nestled in the heart of the kingdom itself. Sounds fun to me. Finally, moving on to March 11th, we have What Wakes the Bells, and this is a debut. It's by L. Tesh, and this is inspired by a Prague legend, which is different for me. It's a Gothic fantasy. I love Gothic fantasy. And once again, we have not a sentient house in this case, a sentient city. And it was created by Long Gone Saint, and we're following Mina, who is the keeper of the bell of the city, and she knows that that bell cannot be rung because it'll awaken evil, long dead, sleeping saints. But of course, one day the bell's rung, or else we wouldn't have a story here. And the people of the city don't even realize that it has happened until the city itself starts to fight back. Gold statues and gargoyles come to life and start killing people in the streets. And there was a twisted saint trapped inside the bell that is now free and is pretending to be a citizen. It's hiding behind the face of a citizen. So Mina has to capture this person to save the city, but it could be anybody. It could be somebody that she loves. She will have to decide how far she's willing to go to save her city and who she's willing to kill to do it. So that sounds so good. Really excited for that one. And there's a fun pre-order campaign. You get a sticker, you get a postcard, you get a bookmark, and you get a signed and personalized copy if you pre-order from Black Bond Books. Homegrown Magic is next. This is by Jamie Pacton and Rebecca Potos. There is a purple cat on the cover of this one, and it says a delighted queer fantasy romance full of friends and lovers chemistry, found family, rival family drama, and cozy garden magic. And these are actually 2 YA authors, and this is their adult debut that they were writing together, which I think is kind of fun, and obviously so many of my buzzwords there. So we're following Yale, who comes from a really wealthy and prestigious family, and obviously their path is set for them and predetermined. But on the night of their graduation, they decide to run away because they want to find out that there's still some adventure in life. And then we're following Margot, who is a plant witch, a tea lover. She owns a greenhouse. She has a magical shop that she's trying to keep running. And one day her former best friend, former crush, shows up on her door, and she decides that she will allow Yale to be her assistant because she needs help anyways, and obviously some feelings come back. And Yale's the only heir to their family, so the family wants them to come home and that's the center of the story. Sounds like a sweet cozy fantasy to me. And we actually have digital pre-order incentives for this one, so you get phone backgrounds, which is something different. They are cute though. Some recipes and like a one-shot story created by the authors, so that could be fun. Another witchy story is The Witch Who Trades with Death by C.M. Alongi. This is a fantasy romance where a young witch seeks her freedom by forging a deal with death. Death with the capital D. And I love when death themselves is a character. A young witch forced to play concubine for her empirical captor finally breaks free to find a life of her own, but even those with the power to call death cannot outrun their past. So this story follows Kana, who is being captive by the emperor, and she kills his favorite courtier one day and realizes that this person has been making deals with death, and now she is as well, and she has her own magic that she can use. And she flees to this small mountain town that's full of warriors, and she's ostracized there because she's a witch, even though she's healing, they're sick and injured. You know how that story goes. And now the emperor wants her dead, and every time she makes a deal with death, he takes a little bit more of her soul. And it says, and now there's only so much Kana can give before she turns into the very monster she's trying to destroy. Idophile by Grace Curtis is coming out, and this is the same author who wrote Floating Hotel, which I haven't read, but sounds like something I would like. And this is an epic sapphic fantasy romance inspired by the fall of Rome. Lots of bad words there, except I don't love road trip stories, so that makes me a little bit nervous, but I'm open to this one. It does sound interesting. So we're following two different characters who are on total opposite sides of the world. Aaliyah, her family says she's a mistake. She's determined to prove them wrong. And then we're following Kirby, who is looking for redemption and to break an ancient curse that has affected her family. And it says, fate set them on the path to Novella, a city once poised to conquer the world with the power of 1,000 stolen gods. Now the gates are closed and the old magic slumbers, dead or waiting for a spark to light it anew. A character-driven science fantasy road trip book with sword fights and slow burn romance. It delves into the vastness of history and the terrifying power of organized faith. Maybe my most anticipated book of the month comes out on March 18th, and that is The Buffalo Hunter by Stephen Graham Jones. Stephen Graham Jones is one of my favorite horror authors. He wrote I Was a Teenage Slasher, which was one of my best books of 2024. It's a chilling historical horror novel set in the American West in 1912, following a Lutheran priest who transcribes the life of a vampire who haunts the fields of the Blackfeet Reservation looking for justice. So I think that's all you need to know about that one, and if you love Stephen Graham Jones, just know this one's coming out. I adore him. We have a fantasy debut coming out. It's called Aunt Tigress by Emily Chin, and it is a snarky urban fantasy novel inspired by Chinese and First Nation mythology and bursting with wit, compelling characters, and LGBTQIA+ representation. It says it's a gory story. I can do some gore, and the sweet as Canadian maple syrup sapphic romance at its monstrous heart. So this is Canadian, because why are we referencing Canadian maple syrup? As a Canadian, I'm here for it. So we're following Tam, obviously, and her mother has forced her to be vegan and to become more soft-spoken, and has cut out anything that is evil that lives within her, and she's highly medicated. But then her estranged Aunt Tigress dies and leaves her this undead fox, and I love that. But also leaves her with an ensemble of old enemies, and it says the demons, the ghosts, the gods running coffee shops by the river, fine. The tentacled thing is stalking Tam across the city, absolutely not. And when Tam realizes the girl she's falling in love with might be yet another loose end from her past, that's just a brassy, beautiful cherry on top. So I have a feeling that this might be campy and some of the humor is going to work for me. I'm interested in trying it. I've been hearing some mixed things, but people who have similar tastes to me I've been enjoying it, so I can't wait to give that one a shot. Three more and I can let you go. We got some sci-fi here. It's called Murdered by Memory by Olivia Waite, and the tagline says, a mind is a terrible thing to erase. And I love that it's set in space and there's like a library happening here. A memory called Emperor meets Miss Marple in this cozy space-born mystery, hounded by no-nonsense formidable aunt of a detective. The opening paragraph is just so cute. I think it gives you the idea of what to expect from this. It says, welcome to the AMS Fairweather, Her Majesty's most luxurious interstellar passenger liner. Rooms and board are included. New bodies are graciously provided upon request. And should you desire rest between lifetimes, your mind shall be carefully preserved in glass in the library, shielded from every danger. So we're following Dorothy, who wakes up in a body that's not hers, and she is one of the detectives aboard this ship, and she's realizing that it's a lot darker because not only are they killing the bodies, they're also deleting the minds from the library. And it says Dorothy suspects that her misfortune is partly the fault of her feckless nephew Ruthie, who despite his brilliance as a programmer leaves chaos in his cheerful wake. Or perhaps the sultry yarn store proprietor, an ex-girlfriend of the body Dorothy is currently inhabiting, knows more than she's letting on. Whatever it is, Dorothy intends to solve this case. I appreciate cozy mysteries set in space, but those are definitely harder to find, so this one caught my eye right away. Another witchy story for you. This one is called The Bane Witch by Ava Morgan. It says practical magic meets Gone Girl in a dark, spellbinding novel about a woman who is more than a witch. She's a hunter. Might be a good one for book club. From the pokeweed berries she consumed at age 5 that led to an accidental death of a stranger, to the husband whose dark proclivities have become concerning, poison has been at the heart of her story. So then she fakes her death to get away from this husband, and she runs away to the mountains to live with her estranged great aunt, and she learns more about her family history and that she comes from a line of Bane witches who are women who eat poison and rid the world of evil men. It says Pierce sets out to earn her place in her family's gritty but distinguished legacy, all while working at her Aunt Myrtle's cafe and perpetuating a flirtation with the local well-meaning sheriff to allay his suspicions on the body count she's been leaving in her wake. But soon she catches the attention of someone else, a serial killer operating in the area, and that only means one thing: it's time to feed. This sounds like it's a perfect mix of dark and cozy, and I can't wait to see how it's handled. It says a very little poison can do a world of good. And there is a pre-order campaign. You get a signed book plate and one of these art prints that are really cute. And then one book coming out on March 25th that caught my eye. Let me know if I missed any. I know there's a lot of sequels that people are excited about that come out in March, and the new Hunger Games I think comes out in March, but this is one that I'm interested in. It's called Blood on Her Tongue by Joanna Van Veen. I'm in your blood and you are in mine. It's set in the Netherlands in 1887. Telling Lucy, whose twin sister is unwell, she is just mumbling a bunch of nonsense. She's become obsessed with this dead corpse that was found in her family's house, and it's like centuries old. And because it is 1800s, she has been diagnosed by the doctor as being temporarily insane. So Lucy wants to unravel the mystery here to prevent her sister from going to an asylum, and she knows that her sister's hiding secrets from her, and she's trying to uncover the mystery. It says then the worst happens. Sarah, who's a twin, behavior takes a turn for the strange, and she becomes angry and hungry. We know where this is going. Lucy soon comes to suspect that something is trying to possess her beloved sister, or is it madness? As Sarah changes before her very eyes, Lucy must reckon with the dark, monstrous truth or risk losing her forever. I love the cover of that one. I love stories about sisters. Is this vampires? Who knows? We will see. So those are all the books on my radar for March. Let me know again which ones I missed, which ones you were excited for. If you had any early copies of these and read them already, I'd love to hear your thoughts on them. As I said, my next video will be my Realmathon TBR. Cannot wait to do a readathon. It's been a minute. I'm back in my reading mood and it feels great. And these books on this list get me excited to read as well, because a few of these are going to be on my TBR. I hope you all have a great day. Thanks again for watching. I'll talk to y'all soon. Bye for now.